With all the horrible stuff going on at the moment in the UK, with corruption scandals and the sort of total apathy that the British public generally seems to have about politics, it's easy to think that we are the English-speaking country in the world who's kind of the most screwed. But of course, America is always there. Whenever you think that you might have it bad, and you're in a constant downward spiral into oblivion, America is always there to show you that someone else is spiraling faster. And nothing is kind of better exemplified than these tweets that I saw earlier, and they all of them blew up. So I thought we'd just talk about them, not because the tweets themselves are particularly important, but what I think it kind of represents. So Bernie Sanders, the US Senator from Vermont that we all know and love. Personally, I'm a very big fan of Bernie's. I think he's been very on the ball with a lot of issues. He supports a lot of decent common sense policies that are going to help a lot of people. He tweeted, "We must demand that the extremely wealthy pay their fair share, period." That was quite a popular tweet. You know, seemingly thinking that he'd been kind of specifically called out. Elon Musk, the billionaire and co-founder of Tesla, although obviously he isn't actually the co-founder, he bought the position of co-founder and then made the actual founders sign an NDA so that they wouldn't reveal that to the public. And the guy who made PayPal, except he didn't really make PayPal, he just made a part of PayPal. And the guy that's a genius engineer at the top of SpaceX, except he isn't actually an engineer. He doesn't even have any qualifications in engineering. And the guy who started from nothing to build a huge business empire, but who actually didn't start from nothing, actually inherited massive amounts of money from an emerald mine that his father owned in apartheid South Africa. He responded, "I keep forgetting that you're still alive." Now, later on, I think it was a few hours later, Elon then subtweeted it again and said, "Want me to sell more stock, Bernie? Just say the word." Now, moving past the truly horrendous and very poor taste way of insulting someone by saying that you forgot that they were alive when, like a year and a half ago, they literally had a heart attack. And obviously Bernie's fine now. He's had surgery and he's had a stint put in his heart. But even disregarding that, I think it's super telling the way the internet reacted to that. So Elon Musk's tweet got more likes than Bernie Sanders' tweet. And you might be thinking, Jesus Christ, Riley, it must be a slow news week if you're reporting on this. But it's indicative of just how much of a huge uphill battle we have in this country, in America, and in many, many others around the world to convince people that Bernie is asking for the bare minimum here, the bare minimum. We're talking about a return to the Keynesian capitalist days of 1950s America in terms of the kind of economic situation, the economic structure of the country's economy, right? Well, obviously it's the economic structure of the country's economy, but you know what I mean? So all we're talking about here is very basic social democratic policies. Bernie's saying, pay your fair share. He's not saying have an absolute wealth cap and an absolute income cap. So if any money you earn over $25 million a year or something, all gone, all goes back to the state, and then the state distributes that money and invests in healthcare, jobs, climate change action, infrastructure, education, anti-poverty programs, etc. Personally, I think that would probably be quite a good policy, but Bernie's not even saying that. He's saying fair share, right? Just pay your fair share. At the moment, you pay no taxes. Like a 70% marginal tax rate on income over $10 million, something like that. A one-off windfall tax on profits made during the pandemic by large corporations. I don't think that's very unreasonable at all. And Elon is then obviously using an epic meme to destroy Bernie Sanders' communist, Marxist, Leninist, Maoist deviant that he is. And this is the thing, right? Often the kind of neoliberal status quo seems absolutely impenetrable because people, Elon Musk's tweet got more support because people are absolutely certain, they force themselves to believe that being incredibly wealthy is just a product of someone working hard, and anyone could do that, and it's their money, taxation's theft, etc., etc. Now, taxation isn't theft. It's just the only way a society can really function. If you don't have basic public services in place and a state there to make sure everything runs smoothly, society will just be dominated by like one or two mega corporations, and you wouldn't have most of the technological innovations we have in the modern day because they were all funded through public research for the public good. That's just nonsense. But also, most of Elon Musk's money comes from the hard work and innovations of other people, right? It's other people. At the very beginning of his career, it was his dad's emerald mine. But halfway into his career, it was the hard work and innovation of the actual founders of Tesla. And, now it's the engineers at Tesla, it's the engineers at SpaceX, it's people working in NASA, and when it comes to like companies that he's got little shares in, like Neuralink, it's obviously, computer scientists and neurobiologists and people like that, people working, who've studied for a long time, really, really intelligent people working in the emerging field of cybernetics. All of this stuff is other people contributing, right? And obviously he owns huge numbers of very complex machines, so they're generating a lot of it. He does very little, right? He's clearly not even spending that much time actually just managing the companies that he owns, because he's on Twitter all the time. It's very, very concerning to me that people are so worried when a politician says we should maybe make the ultra wealthy pay their fair share in taxes, because this, how else do people think we're going to solve the many problems that we have? How else do people think that, we can actually combat climate change? How else do people think that we can, massively reduce homelessness and things like that without government investment? In World War II, do you think that, the mass mobilisation and transformation of the economy would have happened if the state had been like, oh, well, we don't want to raise taxes or spend lots of money, so sorry? It's ridiculous. And Elon Musk's constantly talking about inflation. That's the new thing that he's clutching his pearls about. It's ridiculous. What he keeps saying that if the government spends more money, on social programs and public services and infrastructure and stuff like that, then inflation will skyrocket, and then people's wages will be worth even less anyway. So what's the point, right? But he knows damn well that there are very many different ways that you can avoid the adverse effects of inflation while still making sure that people don't starve in the wealthiest nation on the planet. It's ridiculous. And of course, the primary way of doing that is by spending money through taxation. That money is in the economy already. You're just now distributing it to people who need and deserve it, rather than it being hoarded by a tiny number of individuals. Look, as a society, we have two roads ahead of us. Two very different paths. There's a fork in the road and we have to choose. One road leads to a civilization that guarantees things like water and shelter and food and electricity, healthcare, education, all of those things, free at the point of service for our people, or ultra cheap at the very least. A civilization that doesn't just survive climate change, but actually thrives in this new world where we become not just carbon neutral, but carbon negative. We start absorbing more carbon than we're letting off. We have massively improved living standards. We have high-speed rail infrastructure where everyone has a decent income. A civilization where there's no need for war, where governments are run in the interest of the people, not the ultra wealthy. Or we can have a society where we don't have any of that, but a bunch of people own several yachts. It's a no-brainer. So just bear that in mind next time you go to lick the boots of someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Thank you very much for watching. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. So leave them in the comments below if you so wish, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.